remember how we've discussed the day years and times and also the biphytic nature of both Daniel and Revelation, and we discovered that our key to understanding Revelation was in Daniel. The same is true about the beasts in Revelation. The key to understanding the beasts in Revelation is in Daniel. Now, I want to again show you the graph of the Babylonian captivity, just to refresh your memory. The Babylonian captivity began in 606 BC. The temple was destroyed in 586, but sacrifices were not abolished until 583 BC, as we have proved earlier. Nebuchadnezzar lived to 562 BC. Nebuchadnezzar took control of the kingdom in 555, and Belshazzar was made regent in 552 BC. The Jews were allowed to return home under the decree of Darius in 536, and then the final prophecy of Daniel was written in 533. The prophecy of the 1290 days gives us 50 years, was given 50 years after the sacrifices were abolished. From that, we know that we're not dealing with just literal days, but are dealing with prophetic day years. Now, I want to read first about the great image in Daniel 2. This vision is given to Nebuchadnezzar, and it's written in Aramaic. So this vision is to and about Gentile nations. To and about Gentile nations who are going to rule in the Holy Land into the far future. So let's look at this prophecy. Reading from Daniel 2, verses 31 through 45, and I've excerpted it some to make it a little shorter. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet and brake them in pieces. In the days of those kings, notice this is plural kings, not just one king. This is the 10 toes, the kings of the 10 toes. Shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now continuing on, Daniel 2, 36 through 34. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof to the king. Thou, O king, art the king of kings. This is the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. For the God of heaven has given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. Wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So here you see figurative language at its best. You see this great image, and this great image has a head of gold, chest of silver, thighs of brass, legs and feet of iron, and iron and clay. And here we are given the definition of this figure, that Nebuchadnezzar is the head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. The kingdom that followed Nebuchadnezzar was Medo-Persia. And after them another, a third kingdom of brass. The kingdom that followed that was Greece under Alexander the Great, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom, Rome, shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And when thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of those kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now I want to show you a graph of this, if I may. The kingdom of Babylon existed between 606 and 536 BC, It was destroyed by Darius, as you read in Daniel 6. And you read here, thou art the king of head of gold. Then Medo-Persia followed from 536 to 332 BC. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. And this is verse 39. And then Greece followed from 332 to 65 BC. And another kingdom of brass shall rule over all the earth. Verse 39. And then Rome from 65 BC to 475 AD. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces. Verse 40. Here you see many nations from 475 all the way up to 1967, and you see these 10 toes, the descendants of both the Eastern and Western Roman empires, and sure enough, they're mixed together, but they don't cling to one another, haven't done so ever since the Roman Empire was dissolved. The great image vision was given to a Gentile king at the beginning of the time of the Gentiles to show the Gentiles there would be only 4 major world empires and their descendants who would rule over the Holy Land into the far future. And so it's turned out to be. It's been those 4 kingdoms in the Middle East and their descendants who've ruled that area ever since then. Now, there's another. You remember when we saw the chiasmic form, we noticed that the great image was parallel to the 4 beasts. So now let's look at the 4 beasts because it's about the very same subject. Now let's read from Daniel 7, 3 through 24. I've accepted it to keep it a little briefer. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. First was like a lion. And if you go to the British Museum, they have taken the gates of Babylon, and they have it in the British Museum, and you can see on it the lions of Babylon. And behold, another beast, the second, like a bear. Babylon was followed by Medo-Persia, and after this, behold, and lo, another like a leopard. And after this, behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before him. And it had 10 horns. We've heard about those 10 horns before. We'll discuss them at a later time. There came up among them another little horn. And now I think we'll be able to show a little later that this little horn was Adolf Hitler, because after the fall of the Nazi regime, the Third Reich, or the Third Roman Empire, there has been no reestablishment of the Roman Empire at all. We now have a loose association of states in Europe called the Common Market, but no restoration of the Roman Empire. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And if you look at the Second World War, you saw 3 of the original 10 horns plucked up by the roots. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words that the horn was speaking, Adolf Hitler, I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed. I know that sounds a little premature, and I'll fill this in to show that this is Adolf Hitler. As concerning the rest of the beasts, that's the leopard, bear, lion, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. We'll get into that season and a time. We've already discussed it, but I want to show it again. These great beasts, which are 4 kings or kingdoms, which shall arise out of the earth. The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, this is out of the Roman Empire, are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, Adolf Hitler. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And that happened. Now here's a graph showing this in a pictorial manner. 606 BC to 536 BC, Babylon, the lion. 536 BC to 332 BC, the bear, Medo-Persia. 332 BC to 65 BC, the leopard, Greece. 65 BC to 476 AD, the beast strong and terrible, which is Rome. And then from 476 AD to our own time till 1948, you had many nations ruling in the Middle East and in the Roman Empire. And we can show that this little horn at the very end of all this is Adolf Hitler. And then in 1948, the new nation of Israel was established, and we come into the end times. Now, how do we know that this little horn is not the little horn of the end, the satanic ruler that's going to be trying to take over Israel at the very end of time. Because this isn't the vision of the end. The Bible tells you this isn't the vision of the end. The Bible tells you that Daniel 8 is the vision of the end. So it's the little horn of Daniel 8 who is going to be the final enemy of the Jews and the church. He may be here today, I don't know. He's not going to be the Antichrist as we've been led to believe, but he's going to be a final ruler who's going to attack Israel. Now, the 10 horns of the strong and terrible beast come out of the Roman Empire. After the Nazi regime was destroyed, there has been no dominant European power, just a loose alliance of the 10 horns. The rest of the beasts, the lion, bear, leopard, had their world dominion taken away, but those Islamic states of the Middle East have influenced world events ever since. Their lives were prolonged for a season and a time, Daniel 7:12. I kept looking until the beast, Rome and its descendants, was slain, and its body was destroyed and given to the burning fire. That's the New American Standard. And concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged in the Holy Land, controlling the Holy Land for a season and a time. And here you see it. After Rome was destroyed, and then beginning in 688, when the Dome of the Rock was built, the Muslim nations have controlled the Holy Land for indeed a season and a time until the new nation of Israel was established in 1948. A time is 1,000 years, a season is 1/4 of that time, roughly 250 years, total 1,250 years. It was a season and a time, exactly 1,260 years, from the construction of the Dome of the Rock in 688 to the new nation of Israel in 1948. Old Testament prophecy is ethnographic. The visions in Daniel relate primarily to events that take place in Jerusalem and the Holy Land. The 10 horns of this beast are out of the Eastern and Western Roman empires. After the Nazi regime was destroyed, there has been no single dominant old world empire. The rest of the beasts, the leopard, bear, lion, had no dominion during the Christian era, but they continued to dominate the Holy Land for a season and a time.